If you think you're behind on money, I need you to sit with that for a second, because there's a decent chance you're wrong. Not because your bank account jumped overnight, because getting rich doesn't look like a bank account. It looks like nothing. It looks like a Tuesday where you didn't do anything special. So here are 7 signs you might already be building real wealth and have no idea you're doing it. Stick around for number 7. It's the one that actually predicts all the other 6. The world wants you to think that getting rich is a loud, dramatic event, a lottery win, a viral business idea, a crypto moonshot. The reality is nearly always the opposite. True, sustainable wealth is built in the quiet moments, a series of small, unglamorous decisions that compound over time into a fortress of financial security. It's so subtle, you might be well on your way and not even realize it, because you're too busy comparing your day-to-day life to someone else's highlight reel. So let's ignore the noise. Here are the 7 real signs you're actually getting rich. These aren't about Lamborghinis or luxury travel. They're about the boring, invisible habits that predict future wealth far more accurately than a big paycheck ever could. And sign number 1 is the one most people mistake for a weakness. The first and most counterintuitive sign you're on the right track is that your lifestyle doesn't really change, even when your income goes up. You got a raise, a bonus, or a better paying job, and you still live in the same apartment, drive the same car, and pack your own lunch. From the outside, it looks like you're stagnant. Your friends might wonder why you aren't treating yourself, but what they see as inaction is actually your most powerful wealth-building weapon. You are consciously resisting lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is the silent killer of wealth. The tendency to spend more just because you make more. You get an extra $500 a month, so your rent goes up $300 and your car payment goes up $200. You end the month with the exact same amount left over, just with more expensive stuff. You're not getting ahead, you're just upgrading your cage. The person who's secretly getting rich understands that every dollar from a raise doesn't have a pre-written destiny to be spent. They see it as a new soldier for their financial army. Instead of immediately looking for a bigger apartment, they calculate how that extra income could go straight into a high-yield savings account instead. Instead of leasing a new car, they see their paid-off 2015 model for what it is, a cash-generating machine that saves them hundreds of dollars every single month. This discipline is invisible. There's no Instagram post for "decided not to buy a new couch today." There's no trophy for "kept my 8-year-old car that runs perfectly fine." That's why it's a secret sign. It looks like nothing is happening, when in reality, something profound is taking place. You are widening the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is the single biggest factor in your financial future. If you've ever felt a pang of guilt for not spending a windfall and routed it straight to savings instead, congratulations. That's the foundational choice of the wealthy. Here's a simple test. Right now, could you state with reasonable accuracy 3 numbers: your total monthly spending, your monthly savings rate, and your approximate net worth? If you can, you're demonstrating a sign of wealth that the vast majority of people lack: awareness. A widely cited survey found that 51% of Americans don't know how to calculate their own net worth. They treat their financial life like a mystery, hoping for the best at the end of each month. The person who is getting rich treats their finances not as a source of anxiety, but as a system to understand. You don't need to become a spreadsheet goblin who logs every gas station receipt, just a general, working knowledge of where your money goes. Roughly what you spend on housing, transportation, and food, what percentage goes into savings, and the most important number of all, your net worth. Net worth is simply your assets minus your liabilities, your ultimate financial scorecard. Someone with a high income and a fancy car but a mountain of debt can have a negative net worth. They look rich, they're actually fragile. Someone with a modest income, no debt, and a growing savings account has a positive, climbing net worth. They're getting wealthier by definition, even if the number still feels small. You cannot improve what you do not measure. When you know your numbers, you move from passive hope to active management. You can see the direct impact of skipping a few expensive dinners, not just on your bank balance, but on your net worth. If you have a note on your phone, a spreadsheet, or even just a number in your head that represents your financial position, you are miles ahead of the person who just swipes their card and hopes for the best. This might sound like basic advice, but its mathematical power is almost always underestimated. If you pay your credit card balance in full every single month, you are giving yourself a guaranteed high return investment. Let's be clear, a credit card is a tool for convenience, not a source of funds. The person who is getting rich uses it for rewards and simplified payments, knowing they will clear the balance to zero before interest accrues. The person who is getting poorer uses it to fund a lifestyle they cannot afford. Average credit card interest rates have routinely sat in the low 20% range for new offers and interest accruing accounts. Carrying a balance at these rates is like trying to swim upstream in a financial rapids. Recent analyses show close to half of American cardholders now carry debt from month to month, unable to pay their bills in full. Think about it this way. By paying off a card that charges 22% interest, you are effectively earning a 22% return on your money. There is no stock market investment, no real estate deal, no business venture that can guarantee you a 22% return risk-free. But paying off your high-interest debt does exactly that. The person building wealth views credit card interest not as a fee, but as a destructive tax on their future. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being rational. This habit is also a powerful psychological indicator. It proves your spending is governed by your actual income, not by a bank's credit limit. When you pay your balance in full, you are the master of your money. When you carry a balance, the credit card company is your master. There are two ways to save money. The first and most common is to pay your rent, your bills, your groceries, and everything else, and then try to save whatever is left over. The second and far more powerful approach is to treat your savings as the most important bill you have. This is the principle of paying yourself first. If you have an automatic transfer set up to move a portion of your paycheck into savings the day you get paid, you're doing it right. You are prioritizing your future self before the present-day demands for your money even get a chance to show up. The save what's left method is a recipe for failure because our spending naturally expands to fill our available income. By the end of the month, the leftovers are often small or non-existent. Saving becomes something you'll do when you have extra money, a mythical time that rarely arrives. Paying yourself first flips the script. When you automatically transfer, say 10% of your paycheck to a separate account, your brain no longer sees that 10% as available for spending. You learn to live off the remaining 90%. It automates discipline, taking willpower out of the equation. This is another invisible sign. No one knows that on the 1st and 15th of the month, a piece of your income quietly disappears into an account you rarely touch. Yet this single habit is the engine of compounding. The U.S. personal savings rate has often sat at painfully low single-digit percentages in recent years. By automating your savings, even a small amount, you've moved from a passive saver hoping to have money left over to an active wealth builder who ensures their future is funded first. Quick gut check before we keep going. How many of these 4 do you already do? Drop the number in the comments. I'm genuinely curious whether this channel skews more already doing this or more taking notes for later. Either way, the next 3 are where it gets interesting. Most people budget in reverse. The paycheck lands, life happens for 4 weeks, and whatever's left, if anything is left, gets called savings. That's not a plan. That's a hope. The person who's getting rich flips the order. Before the month begins, every dollar of that paycheck already has an assignment. Rent, groceries, the automatic transfer you already set up, and, importantly, a number for guilt-free fun spending. Because a budget that leaves no room for enjoyment doesn't survive contact with a Friday night. Nothing is vague. Nothing is whatever's left. This sounds like more work than it is. It's not about tracking every gas station receipt for the rest of your life. It's a 15-minute sit-down, once a month, with your bank app open, deciding in advance where the money goes instead of finding out after the fact where it went. Here's why this one habit pulls more than its weight on this list. It removes the guesswork that quietly trips up several of the other signs. You can't automate your savings if you don't know what's left to automate. You can't pay off your card in full if you didn't plan for the annual insurance bill that blindsided you in October. A pre-assigned dollar is a dollar that can't quietly evaporate into a dozen $5 decisions you won't remember making. The person who never does this isn't necessarily bad with money. They're just always reacting, surprised by their own spending, 1 month behind their own bank account. The person who assigns every dollar a job in advance isn't smarter. They've just removed the element of surprise from their own life. And a financial life with no surprises left in it is, quietly, what getting rich actually looks like. This is a sign you feel more than you calculate. You get a flat tire, and your first thought is not, how am I going to pay for this? But, ugh, this is going to make me late. Your fridge breaks, and your main emotion is annoyance at having to shop for a new one, not panic about where the money will come from. When a financial emergency transforms from a catastrophe into an inconvenience, you've reached a critical level of financial security, the direct result of building an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in an accessible account. Numerous reports consistently show a staggering share of Americans couldn't cover a surprise $1,000 expense without going into debt. Some studies find roughly a quarter have no emergency savings at all. To have a fund of several $1,000s or more puts you in a financial class most people only dream of. Picture the version of this day that used to happen. The transmission goes on a Tuesday, the shop quotes you $900, and suddenly you're doing math in the parking lot. Which card has room? Whether the electric bill can wait a week, whether asking about a payment plan makes you sound as broke as you feel. That version of the day doesn't happen anymore. The $900 moves out of the account you built specifically for this, and by Wednesday you've basically forgotten it happened. Nobody sees this moment. There's no story to tell at dinner, it's just a Tuesday that stayed a Tuesday. Before you had it, a job loss was a terrifying spiral. A medical bill was a potential bankruptcy. With a fully funded emergency fund, the fear recedes. You gain bargaining power. You don't have to take the first terrible job offer if you're laid off. This is the wealth of sleeping well at night, freedom from constant low-grade financial anxiety, and the final sign, the one that powers all the others. If you can look back over the last 30 days and not identify a single impulse purchase you now regret, you have mastered the foundational skill of wealth. Behavioral control. Here's why it comes last, and why it's the sign that actually predicts the other 6. Every sign on this list is really just this one sign wearing a different outfit. Paying your card in full requires resisting the impulse to swipe when you shouldn't. Paying yourself first requires resisting the impulse to spend that money before the transfer clears. Not upgrading your lifestyle requires resisting the impulse to match a friend's new apartment. Impulse control isn't sign 7 of 7, it's the engine running underneath signs 1 through 6. Get this one right, and the other 6 get dramatically easier to hold on to. Get it wrong, and no amount of budgeting spreadsheets will save you. You live in a world professionally engineered to make you impulse buy. Every notification, every ad, every limited time offer is designed to bypass your rational brain and trigger a dopamine-driven urge to spend. Individually, these purchases seem trivial, but they're symptoms of a deeper issue, a disconnect between your short-term desires and your long-term goals. The person who is getting rich has created a space between impulse and action. They've developed a habit of pausing. When they feel the urge to buy something, they ask, do I really need this? Is this more important than what I'm actually trying to build? More often than not, the simple act of pausing is enough for the impulse to fade. Think about the last time you had your phone out at 11 at night, thumb hovering over buy now on something you didn't actually need. If you put the phone down and went to sleep instead, that's it. That's the whole rep. Do that enough times, and one day you'll notice you haven't opened your banking app with a knot in your stomach in months, only out of curiosity. Going a month without a purchase you regret means this pause has become your default setting. You can't pay off your credit card if you're constantly adding new impulse buys. You can't pay yourself first if your money is constantly leaking out on things you don't even remember buying. This final sign isn't about deprivation, it's about alignment. When you achieve this, wealth is no longer a struggle. It becomes the natural, inevitable outcome of your daily behavior. So, how did you do? Did any of these signs resonate with you? Notice that not a single one involved picking a winning stock, getting a huge inheritance, or starting a viral company. They are all internal and habit-based. Resisting lifestyle inflation, knowing your numbers, avoiding debt, automating savings, planning your spending in advance, preparing for emergencies, and controlling your own behavior. Building wealth is not a spectacle. It is the quiet, disciplined process of making a series of good decisions day after day that compound into a future you control. If you recognized yourself in even a few of these signs, you are likely much further ahead than you think. You're on the right path. Keep going. If these ideas resonated with you, let me know in the comments which sign you recognized most in yourself. And if you want more practical, no fluff content on building wealth through habits, make sure to subscribe.